Awards.
The most striking feature of Sanchez's play has been his ability to score in the most acrobatic fashion, a skill no doubt inherited from a family of gymnasts.
Watch these epic matches every Saturday late afternoon, only on KBC Channel 1, your true sports partner.
Really gets past the first challenge, and the keeper really made a hash of that.
There is much more in store for you.
KBC, in collaboration with the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development, is broadcasting enhanced out-of-class learning on radio, television and online. Catch the lessons every weekday on KBC Channel 1 from 2 to 4 p.m. on KBC English Service and 15 FM from 9:15 a.m. to 5 p.m. and Radio Taifa from 10 a.m. to 11.
Very good afternoon to you. Many thanks for making the time to join us. This is Channel 1 Lunchtime News. We shall be giving you the latest news both locally and internationally. My name is Betty Kiptum. Simon Karotha is my colleague on the sign language interpretation. Welcome to the bulletin. Now, President Uhuru Kenyatta says Kenya is firmly on track to implement the Beijing Declaration on the Empowerment of Women and Girls. Speaking during a virtual meeting of the United Nations General Assembly, President Kenyatta said gender equality remains central to the development agenda of the Jubilee administration as enshrined in Kenya's constitution.
President Kenyatta says Kenya has adopted robust policies and legal frameworks to promote, enforce and monitor the realization of gender equality and the empowerment of women and girls.
Your Excellencies, gender equality remains central to the development agenda of my administration, as is indeed enshrined in our Constitution of Kenya.
The head of state told the United Nations that his government is actively engaged in efforts to permanently eradicate gender-based violence in the country.
Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Kenya's implementation of the Beijing platform is on track and in line with the 12 critical areas of concern. Our national blueprint for Vision 2030 outlines flagship projects for the promotion of gender equality, inclusive economic growth, prevention and response to gender-based violence, elimination of female genital mutilation, and other harmful practices.
President Kenyatta, however, cautioned that the COVID-19 pandemic is now threatening to reverse the gains made in the empowerment of women.
The COVID-19 pandemic, which has caused not only a health and social crisis, but also an economic one the world over, thus threatening our gains on gender equality.
To mitigate against the effects of COVID-19, the President said Kenya has deployed economic relief packages and established a COVID-19 emergency fund to mobilize resources towards curbing the spread of the virus.
We are also implementing transformative social protection measures through major cash transfer programs with nationwide coverage, providing benefit to over 500,000 vulnerable households throughout our country.
The head of state was speaking during a virtual high-level meeting of the United Nations General Assembly to commemorate the 25th anniversary of the 4th World Conference on Women.
Now, President Uhuru Kenyatta has for the first time broken his silence on the Chief Justice David Maraga's advisory to dissolve the parliament for its failure to enact the 2/3 gender rule. While acknowledging that the matter is still in court, hence he could not say much about it, the president stated that achieving gender parity is not easy, especially in a democratic society. The president also said he was not interested in hanging on to power at the end of his term.
Chief Justice David Maraga's advisory to President Uhuru Kenyatta has sparked uproar in the country, with political opinions clashing on the merits and demerits of such an eventuality. But in an exclusive interview with France 24 television during his official visit to France, President Kenyatta acknowledged the challenge of attaining gender parity in a democratic society.
The spirit of the Constitution was actually one of progressively getting there, because at the end of the day, we have to recognize that we must balance between the rights of citizens to elect their representatives and the need for us to be able to have gender parity in any country. And let me say, and this is a fact, in a democratic society, that is not easily achievable. You have countries like the United States, I think even France, that have yet to achieve that particular objective. So we're all striving to get there.
He, however, said the matter will be resolved once a case challenging the advisory is concluded.
I don't really think I want to comment on that, because that is a matter that's now back again in court. And in Kenya, you know, for us, so long as matters are before a court, we don't want to comment. We will wait and see the outcome of the case in court, and I think that then will determine the way forward.
On his relation with his deputy, William Ruto, the president said his reaching out to the opposition was only meant to unite the country.
That my intention is to do everything I can to bring the people of Kenya together, to ensure that the next election will not be an election that shall be a tense election, or an election that can lead to a potential crisis of ethnicity. And that is the reason I reached out. Now, of course, there are some maybe who feel that as a result of that kind of partnership and me reaching out to the opposition is meant to sideline William Ruto. Yes. But there's nothing more to the contrary, because what we are trying to do is to bring people together to agree on those issues that divide us, and then be in a position to actually have an election where the people of Kenya will have an opportunity to choose for themselves thereafter the leader, and have a system that is more inclusive, so that the results at the end of the day will be such that there will be both acceptability, because there shall be a feeling of inclusion and that no one has been left behind.
President Kenyatta further rubbished claims of planned constitutional changes to have him cling onto power.
If I have achieved this, I would have achieved everything I ever dreamt and wanted for my country.
So you don't want to remain in power one way or the other?
Oh, please. I would rather come and enjoy a holiday in France every summer.
Timothy Kipnusu for Channel 1 News.
Long-distance truck drivers in Kenya have protested delay in release of coronavirus tests that is mandatory requirement before crossing the border to neighboring countries. Following the delay in testing and releasing of the COVID-19 results for drivers, the Malaba Northern Corridor has now been turned into a parking bay for trucks.
This is the situation at Malaba's Northern Corridor. Packed trucks stretching to 15 kilometers. Truck drivers getting impatient as COVID-19 testing has become a Herculean task.
Kuna daktari ya kupima corona na hakuna result kutoka Tanzania. Mpaka atuambiwe tutapimwa corona ama tutapimwa ama hatutapimwa. Kwa sababu hatusongi na hatukaribii bodi.
Bora sisi tutakuwa tunaolewa peke yetu. Kwa gari hakuna gari kutembea wala ni mpaka tujue chanzo cha nani.
The drivers are now threatening to ignore the mandatory testing requirement. Health agencies at the border admit there is a challenge in testing and processing COVID-19 results following breakdown of screening machines.
We have an issue in terms of testing the samples, and this is as a result of some breakdown of some equipment at the labs. And we've collected samples from Thursday, which have not yet been tested up to this time. So they're actually working around the clock to see that these samples are tested and those equipments which are broken down can be repaired.
Kevin Washira, Lunchtime News.
Now, the Water and Sanitation Cabinet Secretary Cecily Kariuki has put contractors on notice over the extension of the contract period. Speaking at Loitoktok, Kajiado South, where she inspected the 1.1 billion shillings Nolturesh Water Springs rehabilitation works, Kariuki ordered that all 22 national government water projects which are ongoing countrywide will be launched in March 2021.
Hundreds of Loitoktok residents are poised to benefit from a 1.1 billion shilling water project as the government put contractors on notice over the extension of the contract period. Speaking at Loitoktok, Kajiado South, where she inspected the 1.1 billion shilling Nolturesh Water Spring Rehabilitation Project, Water and Sanitation Cabinet Secretary Cecily Kariuki put the contractors on notice. Kariuki ordered all 22 national government water projects which are ongoing countrywide must be complete before March 2021.
Kwa hivyo lazima tubadilishe nia kidogo. Kazi sio kuhairisha muda wa kukamilisha miradi, na hao ndio matakwa ya Mheshimiwa Rais. Hii miradi ambayo anajua inaendelea kwa hivi sasa, amekaza kamba na amesema ya kwamba hiyo mambo ya kuchukua muda na kuongeza muda kwa kazi kama hii ikome. Imekuwa ni tabia, ikome kwa hivi sasa. Na ndiposa umeniona na wenzangu kwa kila siku tuko field tukifuatilia hii miradi, ndio tuweke bidii watu wafikiwe na maji.
CS Kariuki said the government gave contractors the project a leeway to subcontract other contractors instead of cancelling a delayed project to avert delays.
We have 2 months. I am with the contractor and the consultant for this project here today. We have agreed that in 2 months' time, that is to November, first half of November, this project will be ready for commissioning. And therefore, I came here to just emphasize the need for us to keep to those timelines because they are not going to be varied. It is a 1.1 billion shillings project currently being invested through the ministry and the waterworks here.
She says the government will continue outlining stringent measures to avert shoddy jobs and curb rogue contractors. The increased water capacity in the area will further boost agriculture activities in the area, whose economic activity is large-scale farming. Kajiado South Sub-County has several freshwater springs deriving its water from Mount Kilimanjaro.
Now, researchers and innovators have been challenged to work collaboratively in order to come up with ideas that help address challenges affecting Kenyans. The Director General of Kenya Medical Research Institute, Professor Yeri Kombe, said collaborative efforts in research will help cut costs and yield quick results. Professor Kombe said the partnering between KEMRI and Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture will help in building the necessary capacity over the two institutions can leverage on this synergy to develop a vaccine that can be administered to address COVID-19.
Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology has entered an agreement with Kenya Medical Research Institute that will see the two government institutions partner in, among other areas, development of COVID-19 vaccine. Director General KEMRI Professor Yeri Kombe say that the two research-based institutions will henceforth be involved in shared innovative undertakings.
In this process, I can tell you for sure, a lot of innovation also comes out. The innovative minds that we have from JKUAT and the innovative minds that we have in KEMRI, marry them, and you can imagine what actually comes out of that. So that is basically what we are going to do.
He said that while the university has been actively innovating hand sanitizers, face masks, contact tracing machines, among other, KEMRI has, on the other hand, been in a race to develop COVID-19 vaccine, with a possible candidate vaccine prototype expected by the end of the month.
This is the time that I think I know there are minds in here that actually are able to work even in the vaccine development. Those are the ones that we're going to pursue and make sure that we work together to come up with this kind of vaccines that we're looking forward to.
The two institutions are also expected to pool and solicit resources in a joint venture. The University Vice Chancellor Professor Victoria Wambui Ngumi said that the collaboration will see the university's health, pure and applied sciences and engineering students venture into serious research that could culminate to generation of solutions for many challenges facing society.
Our researchers in the College of Health Sciences and also our researchers in the College of Pure and Applied Sciences and College of Engineering will now be able to come together with KEMRI, and we can only see big things happening between us. The COVID-19 pandemic is just the beginning. There are many other things that we can do together.
Remember that you can always interact with us on this bulletin. On Twitter, we are at KBC Channel 1. On Facebook, at KBC Channel 1 News. On Twitter, I am at Betty Kiptum. On Twitter, Simon Wamukota, you say that you are watching, as well as James Kanyaga, you are watching from Kangemi. Thank you very much for following the bulletin. We'll be back with more news, after this short break. Stay with us.
When the world changed, it made us go back to the simple joys and love the little things even more, like serving up your best, eating together, and sharing more. Now, we'll take nothing for granted and always remember to taste the simple joys. Coca-Cola, taste the simple joys.
Na msibabaishwe na yale mnayoyapitia, hata yawe magumu kiasi gani, yote yatapita. La msingi ni kuweka tumaini letu kwa Mungu aliyetuumba. Katika kitabu cha Warumi 5:3, wala si hivyo tu, ila mnafurahia.
Kupata dhiki huleta zaburi, bonyeza *811 *963#. Bonyeza *811 *963#.
This weekend on KBC Channel 1.
Hey, Dad. I'm gonna come home for a few days.
Come on, let's go home. Seeing someone?
Yeah. I wish you had someone.
You're my girl.
There's still a lot of unanswered questions, but it appears Detective Thomas Craven was the intended target.
Mr. Craven, we have things to talk about.
Like your name and what you're doing here?
Like who shot your daughter.
I want to know what my daughter did here.
What she did was classified. Emma Charlotte Craven was flagged as a possible threat to the United States of America.
You're gonna follow me to the city of Boston? Welcome to hell.
What does it feel like?
Daughter was Emma Craven. I'm the guy with nothing to lose.
Welcome back. This is Channel 1 Lunchtime News. Now, the National Council for Population and Development is collecting views from residents of Samburu County. National Council of Population and Development to review of population and development policy implemented in 2012. This follows concerns from leaders in the region that figures reflected in the 2019 national census are too low and did not capture the real situation on the ground.
National Council for Population and Development officials have engaged various stakeholders, among them leaders, businessmen and residents of Samburu County, in a public participation exercise on the population and development policy. The council's director in charge of technical services, Peter Nyakwara, says some issues have emerged and ought to be included in the policy, although it was implemented 8 years ago.
As a council, numbers are good, but we are looking at the characteristics ya population. Kupatia wananchi wa county wapeana zile wanaona ni muhimu, those population concerns katika county yao.
He said there are plans to amend the policy to give the county governments room to play a role in population management and development in their regions. The county government of Samburu has refuted statistics released after the 2019 national census, claiming they are too low.
2009, our total population was 223,000 persons. And today, we are only told that the entire population is 310, an increase of only 86,000 people. So, as a matter of fact, we are saying that that population is low, that we are not 310, many people are not captured.
Samburu County had a population of 200,023 in the last national tally, and leaders say 10 years down the line, the population cannot be 310,000 people. They say many people were not captured as they are nomads.
Now, Water, Sanitation and Irrigation Cabinet Secretary Cecily Kariuki has underscored the government's commitment in providing water as a key enabler of the government's Big Four development agenda. Speaking after inspection of water levels at Mzima Springs in Makueni and Taita Taveta counties, Kariuki said agriculture, manufacturing, housing and health sectors are water-reliant development projects without which the government development agenda will not be realized.
Speaking after inspection of water levels at Mzima Springs in Makueni and Taita Taveta counties, Water, Sanitation and Irrigation Cabinet Secretary Cecily Kariuki reiterated the commitment of the government to ensure the Big Four agenda is achieved by providing adequate budgets for speedy completion of projects. The Cabinet Secretary said water remains to be a key enabler in realizing the Big Four development agenda.
It is also an important project because now we're looking at opening up this region in terms of industry, in terms of manufacturing, in terms of additional housing for accommodation, and therefore this project will come in once executed to support the 4 agenda items of His Excellency the President.
She said reliable investigations show the water levels at Mzima Springs is going down due to human activities at Chulu Hills, which borders Mzima Springs. The Cabinet Secretary said plans are at an advanced stage for construction of Mzima 2 water project, which will serve Mombasa, Taita Taveta and Kilifi counties.
It is a meaningful and worthwhile project in my own assessment, and the report that I have seen and now being here on the ground confirms that it is indeed a worthwhile project. I say this because Mzima 2 has served the population in Mombasa, the population in Taita Taveta, the population in Kilifi, the population in Kwale, an additional population in Mombasa would benefit by an expanded project in the name of Mzima 2, which is going to give us over 100,000 liters of water per day.
We'd like to take you now to Jubilee, where the Jubilee Party Secretary General is giving a briefing there. Let's listen into that.
Candidate in contravention of the party position that he committed himself to respect just the previous day in this spot where I'm talking right now. Another example. Kenyans were amazed by the obvious absence of the Deputy President at the KICC during the COVID-19 conference, with his seat remaining conspicuously empty throughout the event, where he was included in the program to make remarks and, according to state protocol, then invite the President to address the conference. For such travesty, the only thing we have received from the DP's camp are tweets from his allies rubbing more salt into the injury. in many days, weeks, and months. We have seen the deputy president run around the country in the so-called hustler political rallies in churches, markets, and roadsides. Up to now, the vast majority of those who serve this party and this president have heeded the call by the president that we should not put the country in a campaign mode so early, so that the country may concentrate in the very important human development agenda of this administration. This restraint is out of respect for the president, and not because of a lack of leaders with ambition and capacity to hit the road and start campaigning. We have witnessed with sadness the very rude and unmitigated defiance in the face of this fervent wish and vision of our president by his constitutional principal assistant, the Deputy President, Honorable William Ruto. Yesterday, the DP turned up at the party headquarters with more than 30 members of parliament, many of them known avowed abusers of the president. These are some of the foul-mouthed MPs that are on record attacking government programs like the Huduma number. It is disturbing that the Deputy President invites the same retinue to the party headquarters to give them a platform to increase polarization in the party. Indeed, that move of inviting those MPs allied to him almost created an ugly confrontation with close to 40 members of parliament not allied to him congregating at the Serena Hotel and demanding to come to the headquarters. It took skillful persuasion to prevail on the other group not to descend on the party headquarters for confrontation that may have turned very ugly. While we recognize that it is important that we exercise wisdom and patience at the party headquarters, which you know I've done, I've never spoken like this before. We have been forced by this, among other events, to make a painful choice between supporting our president or supporting the deputy president. We wish we did not have to make this choice. But given the discordance that the DP has brought into the party, we would like to be absolutely clear and make the following announcement following our consultations at the NMC. We serve one president at a time. The party headquarters is not going to be allowed to become the theater of conflict and confrontation by different factions that emerge in the party. 2, the party leaders, the deputy party leader, as a self-declared presidential candidate of 2022, will not be allowed to use the party headquarters as a center of operationalization of his 2022 campaign and to use the center for intimidation of potential opponents or intimidation of the staff. It is no longer tenable for the deputy president to use the party platform, including statements from the party headquarters, to advance his divisive so-called hustler politics that are counter to the party and the president's platform of uniting the country, fighting against corruption, and the agenda 4 items. He will no longer be allowed to use the party headquarters to make such statements that are principally for his breakaway faction of the party. It is noteworthy that the party constitution has not given the deputy president or the deputy party leader any specific role of organizing party grassroots elections in collaboration with the MPs he has selected and senators, as emerged from the press conference yesterday addressed by MPs and senators allied to him. The NMC has recommended to the NEC that the DP ceases to be deputy party leader after he opened the so-called Jubilee Asili offices that is reserved for him and his allies until such a time that this development of Jubilee Asili will be discussed at the NEC. And finally, we are committed to uniting this country, even as we seek to build and strengthen this party. And as we have said before, this country is more important than even this party. We pledge our support and loyalty to President Uhuru Kenyatta until the end of his term. And we will not countenance any attempted power grab as was witnessed yesterday. I'm going to take a couple of questions. That's the end of the statement. Yes, boss.
Yes, my name is Kanga Radio Citizen.
Well, that was the Jubilee Party Secretary General Raphael Tuju there speaking to the press. He has given quite some directives there. He says, or rather he called out the Deputy President for his meeting with 30 Jubilee MPs at the party headquarters that happened yesterday. He accused him of increasing polarization in the party as well as just putting the country in a campaign mode. And he says that the party has applied to the Elections Commission that Ruto ceases to be the party deputy leader following the opening of Jubilee Asili offices. We listen in to more of that story now.
Hiyo haiwezi kuendelea vile imekuwa ikiendelea hapa awali.
How soon is NEC likely to need to review or consider the proposal by NEC?
That is the prerogative of the president. As soon as he has the time, we're going to meet. But he has told us before that we should be on notice and he can call on us anytime. Yes? Yes, sir. You have to shout a little bit. I can't hear you. Yes, I heard that bit. Yes, proceed. Yes. Yes.
What is the next position? How soon we are going to see relief because the sample is
Okay, fine. First of all, let me just assure you that we just didn't postpone the elections because of the COVID. The elections have to be carried out according to the law. And there are certain compliance issues that all parties, including Jubilee, has to comply with according to the registrar of political parties. We were given those conditions. And I can tell you that no single political party in the country today have been able to comply with those conditions. Those conditions are in law. If we do not comply, then the elections would be null and void, and the matter will probably end up in court. For example, just to give you one of the conditions, the membership of the party has got to be desegregated by ward. So you can't just say that you're a member of Jubilee and you have a number. You have to go back and specifically go to the ward level. So that creating fields that are demanded by the register of political parties, which is according to law, is something that we have to comply with first before we can hold elections.
Jubilee Party Secretary General Raphael Tuju, they are addressing the press on quite a number of issues. He has, just a recap on that, he has accused the Deputy President of increasing polarization in the party because of meeting party Jubilee MPs. He says that are a breakaway group from the Jubilee Party, and he has directed that the Deputy President, as a self-declared presidential candidate for 2022, will not be allowed to use the party headquarters for his political ambitions, as well as not in order for him to use the party headquarters to make statements at the HQ for his breakaway faction. That is what Raphael Tuju has termed it. He says that, of course, the party has applied that DP Ruto ceases to be the deputy leader of the party following the opening of Jubilee Asili offices. We shall be bringing you the details of that report in a little while, or rather in our subsequent bulletins. We move on to other news. Rift Valley Regional Commissioner George Natembeya has put on notice bandits and criminals operating along Laikipia and Baringo counties. Speaking at a security meeting held at Matuiku Shopping Center in Laikipia West constituency, Natembeya said the government will pursue all persons possessing illegal guns in the region. Elsewhere, residents of Njiru in Eastlands have decried increased insecurity in a riparian land within Dandora and Njiru areas in Nairobi.
Regional Commissioner George Natembeya and Laikipia leaders held a security meeting with residents of Laikipia West at Matuiko area, where bandits have made a playground. Natembeya reassured residents of Laikipia of their safety, saying the government will be going after all persons possessing illegal arms.
Ile tabu ambayo iko hapa ni kwamba maofisa wetu wanafanya mambo ya lot of negotiation na wahalifu. Kupanga mambo ya wahalifu, unaona tu ni mtu tu, unaongea na yeye vizuri, lakini yeye hana nia nzuri. The moment raia anachukua bunduki na risasi, inakuwa kwamba ni chombo chake cha kufanyia kazi. Huyo mtu hawezi kuwa mtu mzuri.
Laikipia leaders called on the government to engage the leaders and village elders from Baringo County in an effort to end the vice.
Iko mtu amefungua duka pande ile, ng'ombe anaimbiwa Laikipia, inakaa siku 2-3, inapoa, inaekwa kwa gari, inaenda kwa soko. Fuga hiyo soko if you want to clear this business. Kiongozi wa mambo ya wizi ya ng'ombe katika hii area yetu ya Rift Valley, spari yako saa hii yako lunch, anagojea matokeo ya hii mkutano aongeze strategy. Sasa tunashida hapa tukikibizana na vijana wamepewa buduki wakuja wanyanyasa sisi, na wale viongozi wakuu, the ring leaders, go for them.
Natembeya, however, says there is enough security personnel deployed in the area from different units to protect the area.
Haiwezi kuwa kwamba tuko na RDU, tuko na GSU, tuko na ASTU, tuko na NPSGD, tuko na SIPU, tuko na NPR ile ya Rangers, tuko na dunia yote, alafu watu wananiomba NPR hapa. Hiyo ni dalili kwamba kwamba watu wana imani na serikali kabisa. Ni kusema kwamba watu wanataka kuanza kujilinda hao wenyewe. Maana NPR ni raia. Kusema kwamba serikali tupasi wenyewe bunduki tujilinde, kwa sababu tunaelewa nini tunaelewa. Hapana. Mimi nikija hapa, mimi kama ni dio hapa kwa wapi? Ukifika hapa umetuma kuja kufanya kazi, lazima ujue kazi yako ni kazi gani.
Elsewhere, residents of Njiru in Eastlands are decrying increased security at a riparian area along Nairobi River within Dandora and Ruai. The residents claim there is a gang subdividing the land along the river bank and selling to unsuspecting Kenyans who, after settling, they are later ejected by government agencies.
Akaambia hiyo kitu umechukua, hiyo mzee na hiyo surveyor, hiyo mapu na hiyo tape measure, hiyo alikuwa akipima katika hiyo land yake, ulete police station. Badili ashikwe, anaambiwa apeleke police station. Na nimeripoti na niko na OB. Sasa security hatuna ya kutosha, maana wale weko hapa, especially hapa Njiru, they are being compromised.
Kevin Washira, Lunchtime News.
tourism sector now, a number of local companies have teamed up to promote local tourism to save an industry that has been severely battered by the coronavirus pandemic. Isuzu Kenya, V-Power and Sarova Hotels have come together to entice Kenyans take a safari for the sake of the ailing sector. The head of Presidential Delivery Unit, Andrew Wakahiu, who presided over the launch, said the government was doing all it can to revive the tourism, which is almost on its knees. Wakahiu called on Kenyans to consider a travel option, saying it will go a long way in positively impacting the economy.
We must build back our country, we must build back our economy better and stronger. This is going to take the effort of each and every one of us. And I am proud that this initiative of Tembea Tujenge Kenya is one such initiative that will play a big role in the reconstruction of our country.
We are delighted to be here today to launch this program to show Kenyans what Kenya has. And one of the conversations, one of the planning things here was there's a lot of tourism in Kenya, but the narrative is usually around what our visitors from Europe or America want to see. So we show them the bits of Kenya that kind of fascinate the foreigners. But we've got a lot of Kenya that is very, very fascinating to Kenyans ourselves. And that's why this whole tour, all the 27 destinations are deliberately selected to highlight those things in Kenya, those Kenyan things that would be fascinating for a Kenyan.
Investment to travel is an investment to grow each and every one of us. So let us continue to drive all of us to get this culture into our minds. Travel.
Across borders now, more than 300 students in Namibia have tested positive for coronavirus since schools reopened. The Ministry of Health says most cases are in boarding schools. Elsewhere, U.S. President Donald Trump and First Lady Melania Trump have tested positive for coronavirus and are now in quarantine.
More than 300 students in Namibia have caught the coronavirus since schools reopened. Namibia's Ministry of Health says most cases are in boarding schools. Health Minister Kalumbi Shangula says safety guidelines should be followed to stop transmission in closed areas like schools. Namibia closed learning institutions in March this year because of the COVID-19 pandemic and reopened them in June. All teachers and students were to wear masks at all times to prevent the spread of the coronavirus. Schools administrators were also to ensure high hygiene levels. Namibia has so far confirmed 11,373 coronavirus cases with 123 deaths reported. Elsewhere, U.S. President Donald Trump and First Lady Melania Trump have tested positive for coronavirus and are now in quarantine. The president, aged 74, belongs to a high-risk group. The development comes after one of his closest aides tested positive for coronavirus. Hope Hicks, the 31-year-old advisor to the president and a close aide, was the first to be confirmed positive. She traveled with the president on Air Force One to the first presidential television debate with Democratic rival Joe Biden in Ohio on Tuesday. Closer home in Tanzania, opposition presidential candidate Tundu Lissu says he will ignore police summons and instead attend a planned meeting with foreign envoys. He says his Chadema party has received a letter from the police summoning him to appear before the head of investigations in the commercial capital city Dar es Salaam on Friday morning. He is to be questioned over unspecified remarks he made on the campaign trail. Finally, the European Union says it could impose sanctions on Turkey over provocations and pressures in a row with Greece over energy resources and maritime borders. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen called on Ankara to abstain from unilateral actions in the Eastern Mediterranean. Tensions between the two nations was ignited early this year when Turkey sent a ship into a disputed area to search for potentially rich oil and gas deposits.
Let us now do the business. The government is targeting to generate at least 2,000 new jobs annually in the blue economy. Transport Chief Administrative Secretary Wavinya Ndeti says the opportunities will be generated from intergovernmental collaborations and partnerships with multinational shipping lines.
The World Bank has so far invested over 10 billion shillings to develop Kenya's blue economy. If optimally exploited, experts say the sector that currently contributes 0.5% to the country's GDP can generate 2 million jobs. Transport Chief Administrative Secretary Wavinya Ndeti now says the government is seeking to leverage on collaborations with multinational shipping lines to generate employment opportunities in the blue economy.
Vile tumepanga, sisi tunataka tukuwe na percentage yetu ya watoto wetu wakifanya kwa hizo shipping line, and we are working towards it because mtoto akienda kama ni mtu anafanya kazi ya hospitality, hata kusafisha tu kwa ship analipwa 120 minimum, maybe 120,000.
This, coupled with increased investments in activities geared towards exploiting water resources, is projected to create the jobs.
We know what we want and we know what we are doing, and we are going to make sure that we empower our young people to get into those shipping lines. Now tukiwaambia mkienda huko mnavumilia, hakuna kitu rahisi katika hii dunia.
Players in the blue economy industry are being encouraged to consider renting office space at the new 16th-floor Kenya Maritime Authority headquarters that is 86% complete.
The seafarers have been, the association, what have been advised to is they make an application for some space in this building so that they are going to be closer to the regulators. So if there's anything to be handled, then it is within the same building.
In the recent past, the government has been prioritizing implementation of blue economy programs to grow the sector that has huge untapped potential. Benson Rioba reporting for Channel 1 Business.
Anti-tobacco activists are opposed to plans to grant tobacco processing companies a tax holiday of 3 years on produce sourced locally, arguing that it would be a major setback to the public health protection agenda. The tobacco control advocates are calling for more stringent measures on tobacco products, including banning the use of flavors, which they say appeals to minors.
The push by the British America Tobacco for a 3-year tax holiday on local production of nicotine pouches is irresponsible, deceptive, outrageous, and injurious to tobacco control and other health policies in Kenya. It is an assault on the economy and the intelligence of the leadership of Kenya.
These products that cause addiction, that have got similar effects to those that we experience by consuming tobacco products, must be treated the way we treat tobacco products. So there is no way somebody will tell us that this nicotine doesn't come from tobacco and therefore should not be treated like that one that comes from tobacco.
Now, internationally, global equity markets and oil plunged on Friday, while gold spiked after U.S. President Donald Trump said he and his wife had tested positive for coronavirus. Stock market futures showed that all three of America's main indexes are set to drop by 1.5%. Details of this story and others in our international business roundup.
The letter from Malaysia Aviation Group follows a request by the troubled carrier for steep discounts on aircraft rentals from its lessors as part of a broad restructuring plan. Malaysia Airlines later confirmed in a statement that it had reached out to its lessors, creditors and key suppliers recently as it embarks on an urgent restructuring exercise. According to the letter, the aviation group was experiencing an average monthly operating cash burn of $84 million, but only had $88 million in liquidity as of the end of August, and an additional $139 million available from Khazanah, its sole shareholder. Malaysia's national airline has struggled to recover from two tragedies in 2014, the mysterious disappearance of flight MH370 and the shooting down of flight MH17 over eastern Ukraine. Elsewhere, thousands of UK businesses may not need to set up an European Union presence if they want to export goods to European markets. Both EU and UK law will require companies to have a door to knock on if there are any disputes over payment and compliance, with customs changes that will treat the United Kingdom as if it were any other non-European country from next year. Many EU companies do not want the additional risk and cost of being responsible for compliance with custom procedures. Large EU importers of UK goods want the products delivered to their warehouse door, with the UK exporters taking that responsibility. Finally, Hard Knocks trailed President Muhammadu Buhari's justification of recent fuel price hikes in Nigeria on the ground that neighboring oil-producing countries of Niger, Chad and Ghana, as well as Saudi Arabia in the Middle East, sell at higher prices. In his 60th independence anniversary broadcast, President Buhari said it makes no sense for fuel to be cheaper in Nigeria than in Saudi Arabia, where it sells for 168 naira per litre. The federal government of Nigeria in March said it had removed fuel subsidy, consequently pushing up the price of petrol from 148 naira to over 160 naira per litre. Many Nigerians have expressed dissatisfaction with the timing of the hike, considering the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic on the economy.
Now, 20 insurance companies are yet to inject more capital into their businesses to comply with a government directive and risk losing their operating licenses at the end of the year. The National Treasury extended by 6 months to 31st December 2020 the deadline for compliance with the capital adequacy ratio for insurance companies. Insurance Regulatory Authority Chief Executive Officer Betty Kiptum says come January, the regulator will have no choice than withdraw the licenses of non-compliant insurers.
The Insurance Act was amended to require that insurance companies in Kenya at all times maintain the capital adequacy ratio of 100%. This requirement was to come into force as at 1st of July. However, National Treasury Cabinet Secretary extended the deadline for compliance to the end of the year. Insurance Regulatory Authority CEO Betty Kiptum says as at 1st of July this year, at least 20 insurance companies had not complied with the rule. He says the insurance industry regulator will have no choice than withdraw licenses for insurers that will not have raised their capital by the end of the year, as required by the directive. Experts have called for consolidation through acquisitions and mergers to have well-capitalized insurers, noting that the Kenyan market is too small to have 49 insurance companies. This emerged during the release of the Insurance Industry Annual Report for 2019, that the gross premium income grew 6.1% to 229.5 billion shillings in 2019. This pushed insurance penetration marginally lower from 2.4% in 2018 to 2.3%. Insurers saw their net profit more than double from 7.3 billion shillings they made in 2018 to 15.1 billion shillings last year, driven by increased investment income. General business dominated the industry, accounting for 57.6%. Despite this, insurance companies incurred a net underwriting loss of 3.2 billion shillings, largely driven by the motor insurance class that posted a loss of 6.9 billion shillings. Workmen's compensation class performed well, making 1.7 billion shillings, followed by personal accident at 518 million shillings and marine insurance at 501 million shillings.
Now let's do the sport. Novak Djokovic continued his dominant start to the tennis French Open with a ruthless straight-set win against Lithuanian world number 66 Ricardas Berankis in the second round. The world number 1 won 6-1, 6-2, 6-2, meaning he has lost just 10 games in his first 2 matches. Djokovic, aged 33, is one of the favorites to win the tournament and put together an almost flawless performance to triumph in 1 hour and 23 minutes. Djokovic will face Colombian qualifier Daniel Elahi Galan, who beat American world number 47 Tennis Sandgren. Next. And Ansu Fati became only the second 17-year-old to reach 10 Spanish La Liga goals for Barcelona as they beat Celta Vigo 3-0 last night. Fati opened the scoring with a clever fast touch and finish after being picked out by Felipe Coutinho, his third goal in 2 games this season. Ronald Koeman's Barca went down to 10 men in the first half when Clement Lenglet was sent off for 2 bookings. Lionel Messi's cross was then diverted into his own net by Lucas Olaza, and Sergi Roberto smashed in a late third. Celta went close to pulling one back at 2-0, but Miguel Baeza's deflected shot hit the crossbar. And Arsenal head coach Mikel Arteta has said his side took a step forward by beating Liverpool 5-4 on penalties to reach the quarter-finals of the Carabao Cup last night. After a goalless 90 minutes at Anfield, Ghana's goalkeeper Bernard Leno saved 2 penalties in the shootout before Joe Willock scored the winning spot kick. Arsenal lost 3-1 in the English Premier League at the Reds 4 days ago, and Arteta was pleased with his side's response. Arsenal will now host Manchester City in the last 8, with all ties to be played in the week commencing 21st December. Is where we put a cap on Channel 1 Lunchtime News this afternoon. Of course, more news will be coming to you in our subsequent bulletins. Thank you so much for making the time to stay with us until the end of the bulletin. My name is Betty Kiptum. Simon Karotha has been my colleague on the sign language interpretation. Do have a lovely afternoon.